Hello students, welcome to BA149 Module 3. This week we're talking about translation tools. Of course, you know the difference between interpretation versus translation. If you don't, because this is your first class, which it shouldn't be, but some people take this class before the others. There's no specific sequence except the intro works better. But some of you may not have taken that. So interpretation is oral, translation is written. Today we're talking about translation tools to help you in your translations. So what is success? Success relies on your organization and good project management. If you think about the overall scene, somebody assigns you a document to translate, a series of documents, whatever it might be, and that's fine. You get that in a Word document, you work in that Word document, and you send it back. Perfect. But what if you get a 200-page document that you have to collaborate with others? We're going to talk about collaboration and using some of those collaboration tools in this module. You're going to need to learn how to store and how to work more efficiently using your devices, and that's what this module is all about. So when you manage a project, we have people called project managers, aptly named, and they need to be well organized to manage everything that is going on with each different project. And both project managers and translators must demonstrate good communication skills. Unless you're a freelancer working for yourself and you're only working on your own projects, you can organize them however you want. And on larger projects, you're going to need to collaborate with other translators as well. Maybe you're working on a project that has different languages and your specialty is one language, Vietnamese, Spanish, or whatever other language. So even though you're working on your own language, the end product needs to reflect uniformity. So that's what a project manager would do. And in point number 2, you must learn to collaborate with other colleagues on large projects. And when you're working on a large project with other translators on that 200-page document, you may be assigned 20 pages of that because it needs to be done quickly. So the beginning of the document, the middle, and the end of the document must be consistent. The tone must be consistent, the register, the intent, and the terminology. What if you use one term for one translation in the beginning and the introduction, and then when you go to that specific section 45 pages later, a different translator uses a different term? Then it's not going to match, it's going to confuse the readers. So the project needs to be cohesive and needs to be consistent. There are many tools for project management. We're not going to cover them all, but here are some of them. Proof Hub, Asana software, Zoho projects, Reich, Teamwork, Team Gantt. I use ClickUp just for my own projects. I don't collaborate with others that much necessarily. So there are many projects. They offer similar options, and the project manager assigned to that project or that company is going to tell you what software they use, and you need to be familiar with that or get familiar with that as you go along. When you get something to translate like that, the translation needs to have the same look and feel of the original. So you have the header right here, so the translation needs to reflect that emphasis. And on the link, this will depend. Do they have a page that this will link to in the other language, in this case in Spanish? And if they do, what do they call that page? Over here, it's going to lead them to the English page. But if you type the translation and they don't have a page, of course it's going to go to a 404 page not found. And the client is going to tell you that. And if they don't tell you, you can ask. Maybe they have this here, but they don't have a Spanish version in this case, or the other language version on this page. Then you can ask, hey, do you want that translated as well? And that's another job for you. And again, this depends on the project manager. Stay in contact with that project manager. But in essence, this is what you want to see. You want to see the same look and feel on the different languages. Consistency, the same register, etc. And sometimes you might get something that is on paper. And if you get that on paper, you need to scan it. This is a device on your phone. There are many apps that do that. And instead of filing them like this, you need to scan them like that. There are tools to do that. This week's homework is going to help you to learn at least one of the processes to do that with OCR, optical character recognition. And I mentioned this in the introduction. Sometimes they give you a page like that, a written page, a web page, and they're not going to give you access to the web page itself. You may not be a web designer, so even if they give you access, you may not know how to work all this, but In that case, if they don't want to give you access, they assign you this translation, and this is one way that it is done. But again, you ask the project manager or the client how they want this translated if they don't tell you specifically. So instead of translating this page like that, you translate the different elements and create a table like this. You have the source text and the target text, and in parentheses here you have what is the section. Is this the running head? Are you translating the credit, the headline, the intro, or the kicker? That's what they call this blurb before the article. The image caption, so in this case photo caption, image caption, the same thing. So you put the source text here, or maybe the client does and saves you a step. If you need to type that in, of course you need to charge for that, and then you do the translation. The next one, you put the headline. What is the translation of that into the target language? Each section will have a different cell on the table, and then it is easier for the designer or the webmaster to just copy and paste the different elements, and they don't even need to speak the language. And it's important to keep your files organized, something like this. So you have translations, clients, glossary, different research articles, and then in the glossary you have cardiovascular and oncology, research articles, clients, jobs you've done before. And in this case, if you want to find this file, you go to clients, the year, the file itself. And then keep your glossaries there, well organized, different research articles. So you may have a cardiovascular article. If it has been translated, then you have both articles so you know how that was translated before. So keep your files organized. It's going to help you in the long run. And remember to back up your files. Things happen to computers, devices, etc. So one thing you can do is to use something like Dropbox. You can buy an external drive like this, or I use something like this. This is a paid subscription. What I like about this is that it backs up not only my computer, it backs up any attached drives, unlimited amount of drives that are connected to my computer. So there are different plans out there. They're always developing more. So do your research and look at your budget on how you want to do that. I don't remember how much I pay for this, like $80 a year or something like that, and I can back up all my different drives. This is part of homework 2. This is how you would organize that in a zip folder. You can right click to rename the folder. Your files are going to be right there. This is also part of that homework on tracking changes. You can do that in Google Docs, which is a little bit different. You have editing, they have suggesting, or somebody can just view those. And the one we're working on this week is Microsoft Word, when you review, track changes for everyone. But you need to be able to work with both because the client might be working with Google Docs or the client might be working with Microsoft products. And finally, what is your output? Your output is your average productivity. And if you don't know, just calculate how many words you translate per hour. Multiply that by how many hours you work per day. So that is the words per day. But it's usually not a straight line, because if you translate, let's say 500 words per hour and you work 8 hours, well, 500 times 8 is 4,000. But you have breaks. Sometimes you go faster. Sometimes you can copy and paste certain elements. So your average words per day might be different than a simple multiplication. And how many words are in a document? So if you're translating a 4,000 word document and you do 500 words an hour, it's going to take you about a day, about 8 hours. And in the readings, I give you some productivity tips. So go ahead and look at that if you haven't done so already. And that's it for this week.